So, with no further ado, make sure I'm doing this properly. Okay. All right. So it gives me great pleasure, guys, to welcome you all to this really exciting webinar tonight featuring Taylor's Gift Foundation, co-host of Transplant Journey. And I'm beyond thrilled, really, truly, to welcome Taylor's Gift Foundation and Hannah tonight, and just tell you briefly a little bit about Taylor's Gift and why it means so much to me. Taylor's Gift really was brought about because of the passing of the Storches family back in 2010, and their daughter was really brought about through a tragedy, and also because they saw the importance of organ donation when their daughter passed away. And many of us who are here tonight have received this incredible gift through tragedy. And it's really important to me because I am a recipient of two organs through this incredible generosity of donor families. And I am living an incredible life because of this gift in the darkest hour and moments of families like the Storch family and this foundation that has been given back to so many of us, and how to say thank you. I didn't know how to say thank you until a year later. And I think education is so important, and the writing of letters and how to go about doing so. And when I found out about Taylor's Gift Foundation, to me, it's an education piece, it's an awareness piece that we need to do better with. How to say thank you, how to go about doing so, the tactful way, and how to honor not only the donor, but these families who make this ultimate sacrifice in the most painful moments and their darkest hour, and how we can go about carrying on the legacy of the donor and their families, I think is absolutely critical. So that's why I reached out to Taylor's Gift. And these incredible women are here to educate us, provide insights, and share their stories as donor families. And I cannot say thank you enough to them to help educate us, to spread awareness, and how we can do so in our community is absolutely implicit on us, I think, and we shouldn't think twice about this. So that's why I have this webinar here tonight to share with us, and it's really a give back, is what I consider this. So I'm going to pass it on to Hannah and her incredible team who's here. And I just want to thank you guys again from the bottom of my heart, all my organs, and really it's a tribute also to my donor family and also my donor. So with that, I pass it on to you, Hannah, and super huge thanks to all of you guys for being here.
Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you. We wanted just to share with you how grateful we are to you for facilitating this opportunity. I know we were kind of thoughtful about the date, but the fact that it is really the beginning of National Donate Life Month, and on this very important month and day, we get to honor connection by connecting. And I think there's a lot of power in that. So, my name is Hannah. I'm the Director of Grief Services at Taylor's Gift. I'm fortunate enough to be joined by our incredible panel of donor mothers, Lisa and Joe, and donor wife, Jan. You'll get to know more about them and their journey throughout our time together, but tonight is really our hope that we can explore the emotional part of the transplant journey, reaching out to the donor family and get perspective on what experiences they come with, and then what are some of the collective experiences we hear from some of the other families that are connected to us. During this time together, we're going to talk about the power of connection. You'll hear us say that quite often, some common thoughts and emotions, just normalizing this experience because it can be hard to know what's normal, what's not normal. How to step into connection, being mindful of your health and boundaries. That's important for both the donor families and recipients. And really, the key to all of this throughout is self-care. We all know how important self-care is. We're going to wrap up our time together with open questions for our panel. And you might have some questions that occur to you as you hear them share throughout our time together. We just ask that because of the amount of people that we have, that you hold the questions until the end. We have two practicum students with us tonight who work with Taylor's Gift that'll be holding those questions, and they'll ask the panel on behalf of you all at the end of our time. We also want to highlight a few things, a few acknowledgments and agreements while we're together. We speak from common themes and personal experiences. So please take what works for you and leave what maybe does not align with your needs. We all walk through this process differently, and we want to honor that. We also know that all emotions are valid. There's no right or wrong way to feel. And so we like to just have that disclaimer at the beginning that whatever feeling pops up, notice it, but notice it with no judgment. For specific questions, we do encourage you to talk to Jen or talk to your transplant center. We are not experts on the transplant process, and we know that there may be additional questions about how to connect, how to reach out. Jen is a great resource for that. Also, your transplant center may also help you with that as well, and we want to ensure you have accurate information. So please contact them if you have additional questions about who to reach out to or how that connection can happen. And then some find it helpful to know the expectations around timelines. We do just like to, as we enter into this conversation, honor that sometimes it does take time. If you do decide to write your donor family, that can take some time because it has to go through the transplant hospital to the the organ procurement organization, and that goes to the family. So we just know that that can be a really frustrating experience for donor families, and imagine for recipients as well who are looking forward to connection. And so we just kind of acknowledge that so people know that that is a typical experience. So what we hope in our time together, as Jen mentioned earlier, is that we hope to help you learn a little bit about Taylor's Gift as a resource for yourself or others that you know who are donor families and experiencing a grief. We also want to help gain perspective about the experience of donor families. We hope to offer suggestions for creating a relationship with the donor family and really identify how connection can positively impact one's journey. We also, as I mentioned before, want to honor self-care and gratitude as important parts of acknowledging the gift. Before we go into talking about connection, I just want to highlight what it is that Taylor's Gift offers to donor families. As Jen mentioned, we were founded by donor parents, Tara and Todd Storch, after the tragic loss of their 14-year-old daughter, Taylor. After connecting with Taylor's recipients, they realized the power of connection and founded Taylor's Gift so that donor families could ultimately receive specialized grief care sensitive to the donor family journey. We support donor families, donor and spirit families, tissue donor families, and eye donor families as well. Through the Storch's family's experience meeting with their recipient, they and we hope that others find inspiration from those who've walked similar paths. The two ways that we do this, well, there's really three ways, but two main ways that we do this is through our one-on-one support services. We have caring guides who are trained following 40 hours of training and ongoing supervision. These are individuals with lived experience with grief that can companion donor families and support them as they experience the emotions that come with their grief journey. We also offer virtual support groups as well. These are loss specific and they are free. Both services are free to families, and that is another space where they can connect with others who are experiencing a similar type of loss. We do workshops like this one that are specific to family needs around connecting. We actually just did a workshop last month on connecting with the recipient. And so it is really beautiful to be on this side of it. And be able to meet you all and share what we've learned and what we've talked to our donor families about. So before we step into our topic, we want to pause and acknowledge that emotions are understandably complex when you think about connection. You might feel overwhelmed, pressure, survivor's guilt, and two emotions at the same time. There is certainly acknowledge that there's joy of knowing that donation enhanced your life, yet sadness around knowing that someone died. Know that you're not alone, and I'm certain that our donor families have felt some of these emotions as well. We know that emotions are signals in the grief process and in this process, and they can tell you when to step forward or maybe when to pause and stay where you are and really engage in that self-care practice. Not everyone may feel ready or comfortable to contact yet, and that's okay. Whether or not you choose to contact, the connection is still there. Remember to give yourself compassion and know there's really no wrong or right way to feel about this. It's personal to you and your own journey. So we know that many people are feeling these emotions. You might be wondering, why connect at all? The truth is that if we stay in survival mode of the hard moments in life, moving only through the weight of pain, fear, isolation, we may be getting through the days, but we're really not fully living. Survival protects us for a time, but really healing asks something different of us. To begin moving from survival to living again, we want to look for integration. And this is something that we talk to our donor families about all the time. Ways that our fears and our life can exist together is what that integration, really look like. And the path towards that often begins with really two courageous steps: vulnerability and connection. Vulnerability really is allowing parts of our story to be seen. And that can be hard to open yourself up to let everyone know what you've gone through. And then the other important part is connection. That means letting others sit with us in it. In many ways, by showing up to this workshop tonight, you've already taken both of those steps. And I would be remiss to not mention Brene Brown, and she reminds us that connection is why we're here. It's what gives us purpose and meaning to our lives. And even in grief, especially in grief, connection reminds us that we're not meant to carry our stories alone. And I think that really honors both sides of the transplant journey. Tara Taylor's mom, our co-founder, when she wrote the book about Taylor's Gift, which is an incredible read, I encourage you all to look at it. She talks about how meeting Taylor's recipients, people wondered, would it bring her joy? Would it bring her peace? And for her, neither of those things could come back the same way after Taylor died. But it did give her strength. Through every story of connection, there is a gift, but we don't always know what that gift is going to look like. One of the gifts we've seen emerge for donor families is that you will always remember their loved one as they do, a hero who saved lives. Jill will talk more next about the power of connection. Jill, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. As Hannah mentioned earlier, I am a donor mother. I'm actually a donor sister as well. I became a donor sister way back in 1982, a donor mother in 2009, and I currently work as a caring guide for Taylor's Gift. With the power of connection, that helps us to process feelings together with the recipient families. It helps us to share a solace or solitude about the experience overall. It helps us to express gratitude together and find meaning, and increases our hope in knowing that the experience is not just about us. It also gives us a shared knowing that there was greater purpose for the life of the donor. It also helps build a bond, not just with the other person and the other family, but with the community in the donation or the transplant world. Managing expectations and the what ifs. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I cause more pain by reminding them of their loved one? These are some of the questions that you may ask yourself in preparation for meeting with somebody or in anticipation of meeting the families. What if the thank you just doesn't feel like enough? Or what if they're not what I expected? Sometimes that thank you cannot feel like it's enough and can be overwhelming for many reasons. But being reminded of our person is something that we want to do. Yes, it can be painful for us, but we do want to talk about them and we do want people to ask about them. So you can't say the wrong thing by asking about them because that's what we enjoy that. Recipient guilt or survivor's guilt, people experiencing that may feel like their wish or their prayer for their medical need somehow caused the death of our loved one. And we know that that's not true. And I hope that you all know that that's not true. People may also feel a sense of responsibility for the outcome, even if it was beyond their control. This guilt may also manifest in various ways, including feelings of shame or self-blame, and can also manifest into depression or anxiety. But it takes time for people to get physically better, which may be one of the reasons why they don't want to meet. They want to be their best self before they do meet you. So that's something to keep in mind, that it isn't necessarily just about you. It may be about them and how they feel. Also, there are many people who just don't know what to say. I've heard a lot of people say that over the years. Some people come in and they say just the wrong things. You hear them just blurt out the wrong thing, and that can offend people and hurt feelings. And oftentimes that's just a result of people not knowing what to say, so they say the wrong thing. But then there are also people who don't know what to say, and so they don't say anything. There's two sides of that coin there. So ways to connect with people, with the families, are through letters, through phone, social media, and in person. And connection is powerful, however you choose to do that. I will warn against finding people on social media because it can cause extra emotions on both sides, where you may see information about that person or their family or their friends that you probably didn't want to see, or maybe didn't want to see, or wish you wouldn't have known. You may think, and you may also think that you have the right person, but you may not have the right person. There are a lot of people with similar names, and there's also a lot of people that use pseudonyms on Facebook. So while you may think that you've got the right Jill Stevenson, there are, 99 Jill Stevensons, and you may not have the right one. So those are two really good reasons to caution against using social media only. If you need help in contacting your OPO, or how to get, or want to know how to get in touch with that person, going the standard routes of letters or phone calls, I would just encourage you to be in touch either with your transplant center, your OPO, or in the case of those of you on the call here, to Jen directly, and we can direct you on how to get in touch with somebody. But just be careful with social media so you know who you're looking at. Where to start? Just share a little bit about yourself. Express how that gift impacted you. Ask to hear about the loved one. Ask to learn about them. And just be your authentic self. Don't worry about being perfect. Sometimes when we overthink about what should we say, I'm going to say the wrong thing, or is that too much for me to say, or just let it flow. Just let it flow and be yourself. That's going to give you the most in return, by just being your authentic self. Recipient boundaries. It's okay to communicate boundaries or topics that you don't want to talk about. What may be some topics that you don't want to talk about. And it is best to leave divisive topics out of your conversations. Consider boundaries and privacy around medical needs. How do you both prefer to stay connected? And here's that social media again. That's okay if you both agree on it. Letters, phone, in person, that's a question mark as well. That's something that both parties would agree on. And what type of relationship that you would like to have. Ultimately, that's up to you to control that. And that's where boundaries come in. Nobody says that you have to have an open relationship with a donor family or recipient family. There's no rule that states that that has to be true. There's also expectations that you might have about what this family looks like, what this family member looks like. And I don't mean just in physical looks, how they fit in a social status, what their political views are, what their religious views are. And these are things that are not even considered when the match is made with your organs. The matches are made based strictly on medical data. We're not creating a profile that we're getting a match for. It is medical data only. So be prepared to learn about information if it doesn't match what you hoped for. The hope already took place, or the hope was fulfilled when the match was made, and that is only with medical data. Also, if you discover something about the other person that you don't agree with or that you don't like. What you've done is you've possibly invalidated the positive aspects of your experience. And that's something that if you could just come into it with the expectation that the match was made out of means beyond your control, but solely because of a selfless choice that somebody made. Additional considerations, again, being cautious of social media, just repeating, make sure that you're in fact contacting the donor family and filter out personal information by avoiding sharing your address. And know that connection is a process that can take a long time. Here again, we encourage you to go through your OPO or your transplant center or hospital or Jen in this case. It's also since 2018, it's been okay for people to include contact information in the letters that are shared between using the OPO or the transplant center as the go-between. But it's still up to you as to whether or not you want somebody to have that information. This is truly a personal choice. Once again, there is no right or wrong way, and there's no requirement. It is up to you how you would want to do that. So just think about those things that I said in using caution when you do that. And I just hope and pray for the best for everybody on that. Thank you.
I'll pass it over to you, Jan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jen, for having us all here. Okay, so UNOS, the United Network for Organ Sharing, says connecting with your donor's family is a testament to the human spirit and enduring bonds that can form between individuals who have shared such a life-changing experience. This is very true. I wrote versions of this next letter to my husband's recipients. He was a cornea and tissue donor. Dear friend, my husband, Paul Flanders, was the donor whose nerve tissue was used in your orthopedic surgery. I wanted to tell you a little bit about him. He was only 48 when an aortic aneurysm took him away from me almost 2 years ago, and I miss him every day. Knowing that he has been able to help you and many others through his generosity takes away some of the sting, though, and I know he would be overjoyed to know that he has played a part in your recovery. Paul was a career newspaperman and an avid baseball fan with allegiances to the Red Sox and the Astros. Nolan Ryan was his hero, but mainly to the game itself. He loved music in all forms and was an accomplished pianist. He played baseball, he was a catcher, in his younger days and enjoyed playing tennis throughout his short life. He was a gifted graphic designer, artist, and writer, and loved a good or bad joke. I still hear from friends and colleagues how much they miss his quiet presence as he took in everything around him and then out of nowhere came out with the perfect wry quip or observation that would leave everyone laughing. Paul loved life. He was passionate about the things that brought him joy, like animals. He would stop to play with any dog he saw and spend hours brushing, petting, and playing with our cats, and the things that infuriated him. He was a staunch member of the resistance and a warrior against injustice everywhere. He was the best person I will ever know. Thank you for helping my love the hero I always knew he was. If you'd ever care to contact me, I would welcome the opportunity to learn about you. I did include my phone number and my P.O. box at the time. And this was just about a year after including contact information became okay to do. So I was very happy to be able to do that. That said, I did not hear back from anyone. And my aftercare specialist assured me that that was fine, and she urged me to write again and keep writing. So 2 years later, dear friend, I'm writing again in the hope that you will respond and we can get to know each other. You might remember from my letter 2 years ago that my husband, Paul, was the donor whose nerve tissue was used in your orthopedic surgery. I've just returned from Pasadena, where Paul was chosen to be honored on the Donate Life float in the Rose Parade by Axogen, the nerve tissue bank that provided his tissue after receiving it from New England Donor Services. Paul represented nerve tissue donors, and his fluorograph was part of that float. There he is. I know that Axogen attempted to reach you to see if you could join us in California for what was an incredible event. It would have been wonderful to meet you, but maybe that can still happen. Still no response, but that's okay. It's been 4 more years and I'm going to write again. I know that Paul is out there and he is helping people. People are able to walk, run, play baseball, which he would love, unless they were Yankees fans, and enjoy their lives again. 2 women are able to see again because of Paul. What if the donor family doesn't respond? Or in my case, the recipient family. As Hannah and Jill have said, individuals deal with circumstances differently and at their own pace. Each person is going to grieve differently. They may not be ready. They may not be ready for contact. Sometimes the process of writing the letters can be a cathartic experience. I know it was for me. It can be cathartic for the writer and the person who reads it. Some donor families may not be ready to connect, but just knowing that their loved one has helped someone in a certain way would definitely be appreciated. Many donor families say they would just be delighted to get a note saying thank you. And I know Jill talked about whether that's enough, and people wondering if that's enough. I can tell you that it would mean the world to me if any of those 125, well, not quite that many, letters were responded to with just those 2 words. I'm also a 3-time tissue recipient myself, and I am grateful every day to my donors and their families. I believe that is it for me, and it's time for Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa. I'm a donor mom since 2022 is when my son passed away. And I'm also a caring guide with Taylor's Gift. So we will talk about self-care. Take the time you need to heal. And remember, this is different for everyone. There is no time schedule or time frame, even though people will try to lead you to believe that. Use your support people, spouse, friends, etc. This is when we say use your tribe. Reach out to them. Don't ever hesitate or be scared. Check in with yourself. What do you need? Sometimes you may not know what you need, and that's okay. Just tell people, I don't know what I need, but I know I do not need this, and whatever that may be. Just talk to your people. Consider journaling and other ways to express and clarify thoughts and feelings. We had a conversation about this the other day, and people mentioned art and music being very important to them as well. So that's definitely, if you're not a writer, that's also something that you can do. Self-compassion, a mantra practice. I honor my feelings. I will give myself grace. I will give other people grace. Lately, we've been talking a lot about permission. Give yourself permission to feel a certain way, or to do certain things, or not do certain things. That's okay too. Finding a place for gratitude. Brene Brown, gratitude makes sense of the past, brings peace for the day, and creates a vision for tomorrow. So when I was thinking about gratitude, I actually looked up the definition again. I thought I knew what it was, but I wanted to make sure before I talked about it. So gratitude is recognizing something good has happened to you. It also consists of acknowledging someone or something is responsible for it. Gratitude is deeply personal to one's values. and as a coping skill can show up in many different ways. Some may choose to express gratitude through connection with donor families. Others may express gratitude through connecting with a higher power, finding beauty in the day, acknowledging a moment of joy, or being fully present. Practicing gratitude has a profound effect on health and well-being, however you choose to use it. Some examples: observe the moment, focus on how you are feeling, write it down, a gratitude journal, gratitude rituals, or giving thanks. And we invite you to put in the chat what role gratitude plays in your life. And then we talk about self-care after. Take time to process the emotions. As we mentioned earlier, there will be a lot of emotions, and oftentimes several emotions all at the same time. So much so that you don't even know what emotion you're feeling, and that's okay. Talk to your emotional support people. Here we're talking about your tribe again. Reach out to your people. Find people who understand. This could be from a support group, such as what you go to, or peer support. Remember, you are not alone. Talk to others going through it and use the tools that are available.
Going to just briefly want to show that this is for donor families who are interested in receiving free grief support. This QR code takes them to our website. Individuals who are looking for support that are donor families who may be here or families that you know of can access our services through the website and complete a referral form on their own behalf, a self-referral form, and we'll reach out to them to tell them more about the program. If you have additional questions, Jen has my contact information. Feel free to reach out. This is the portion where we want to spend time with the panel and invite you all to ask questions that you may have about the donation connection experience. I think that our panel has introduced themselves already throughout talking tonight, but I put it up here as a reminder. And then we do have some questions that we have kind of planned to ask, but I'm going to pause for a few moments and see if anyone has questions. Feel free to come off mute if you have questions for our panel. So one question that we had explored and thought would be helpful to invite some perspective around is ladies, what advice would you give someone prior to meeting their donor family or donor families? And any of you guys can do this one.
I can talk about this one. Again, know what your boundaries are, have them established, honor those, and uphold those. I can tell you as a donor family, we want to honor your boundaries as well. We don't want to ask any invasive questions. We don't want to upset anyone. Just as oftentimes recipients feel the same way for donor families. So, I would recommend that. And the other one too that I think is really big is we do want to talk about our loved ones, as Jill mentioned. So always feel free to ask about them. We love to tell you about our people. I could tell you about my son for days if you would let me. So, in fact, I was telling someone today he was 18, about the time that he decided to test out his pepper spray in the car while I was driving. So yes, we love to tell stories. And I would say that we all have some good ones. Jen, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want thank you guys for this incredible workshop. It was so well done. So just kudos to you all for this presentation. It was great. I wanted to touch on Jill's slide with the managing expectations aspect of this. Something I've just noticed because we do have several donor families that are part of our group. And something that I've noticed, which seems to be a bit of a recurring theme when I've spoken with some of the donor families, is that they really appreciate the mention of the loved one's name being mentioned. And I think that's very important because it's a legacy that needs to be carried forward because we are all the grateful recipients of this loved one's passing. And I think there's a hesitation on behalf of us as recipients because Jill, you said it. We don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to offend someone. And Lisa, you said it. You love to speak about your son still. And you could talk about him for hours and days and do this. And what you guys did here is you provided this key insight into that. So again, I want to say thank you for this. And this is really important to us to learn these tidbits so we know how to move forward with this. And to the group that's here tonight, I continue every year to write to my donor family because I have yet to hear back from my donor family. I harbor no angst, no resentment for that because, they lost their son at a very young age, and I'm going to continue to write every year in the hopes that someday I will hear back. And if I don't, that's okay. That's fine. But I want them to know I'm doing well and I'm thriving. And I'm so appreciative for that day in and day out. And just for the rest of the people on this Zoom, just in case, I've started to number my letters because you never know, maybe the letters have gotten lost. So now they know this year in August, it's going to be year 11. So number 11, is in the corner of that letter, right? So that they know I didn't leave them hanging. Something might have gotten lost in snail mail or something along those lines, right? But that's, I think, the important part. I don't want anyone else on this call to stop trying to connect. And maybe someday in, 20 years, they'll decide, hey, Jen, now's the time and we want to connect with you. Or maybe there will never be a time, but that's okay because I'm carrying the legacy of their son onward. And that's perfectly fine too. It's up to them when they're ready to connect.
Beautifully said, Jen. We do have some questions in the chat that I'd love to offer to the panel.
Yeah.
Monica asked, do donor families ever feel regret about their choice?
I haven't. Not
Me
not
either.
not even one time, not even for 1 second. None.
No. And I was going to mention that too. So thank you, Monica, for asking that. Um, I do know with some participants that we work with, there sometimes I don't think regret is the right word. I think maybe the way that it was handled or communication or something like that could be a point of contention, maybe. But actually making the decision, I don't think so. So I think that's a very great question. And also, I want to remind people that a lot of times they register themselves. My son registered himself, so I had to sign the authorization, but he made the decision, and I would have done that anyway. But who am I to take away the decision that he made? So
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. It wasn't my choice. It was Paul's choice. He made it when he got his driver's license many years before I met him. It absolutely, as Lisa just said, if the choice had come to me, if he hadn't checked that box when he was 17, then it would have been a no-brainer for me. But it was his choice. He fulfilled the decision that he made when he was a teenager.
Ladies, Christina asked, will a recipient ever ask what your loved one or how your loved one passed? And this might kind of go back to that boundary conversation that Jill had spoke of.
In my experience, my son's story was front page news. So it was obvious how he died or what caused his injuries that led to his death. So there was no hiding it. I would say to ask a family that question, I would just use your best judgment. It would depend on what the circumstances are when you're meeting them. Um,
Just
with
to clarify, Jill, I think the question is, as a donor family, would the recipient ask the donor family how the loved one died? So how, as a donor family, would you recommend navigating that if you did not want to share how your loved one died and you are a donor family?
I mean, and that's what I mean. Like, just use your discretion, you know. How does it feel in relationship to how your conversation has gone with them thus far? If it feels like you're overstepping a boundary, then you probably are. Some people are going to be an open book and they're going to be okay with sharing that with you, and some people may not be comfortable with that. There's so many different situations and circumstance in which people die, obviously. So I would just use your best judgment. And if it's not comfortable for you, you can certainly take to the interwebs and do your own research and try to figure it out yourself. You know, oftentimes in an obituary, it may say donations, you know, to the American Cancer Society or, you know, something along that line, and you can kind of discern what may have happened.
For me, Christina, I made it very, and I think Jill's right on. I made it very clear in my letters, my first letter to recipients, that I was an open book. Whatever they wanted to know, I was happy to tell them because my son's information wasn't in the paper because of the way that he passed, and it was tragic. But I still, and because of the way that he died, I want people to know what a good person he still was. So, but again, I put that in the letter. Ask me any questions. I'll answer anything. So that one's could go either way, definitely.
And I think to reiterate, you do not have to share anything that you're not comfortable sharing. So if you are in that experience where you are asked questions, you can simply say, I'm not comfortable talking about that yet. And that is always okay. Yeah. Ladies, one really important question that I wanted to ask you all as our panel is, how has meeting or connecting with your loved ones, recipients, affected your grief journey? Or how has the process of potentially meeting the recipients, writing those letters, affected your grief journey?
I can talk again on that one. I was able to meet my son's heart recipient, and it was absolutely amazing. He's an amazing man. He's very funny. He wanted to know all about Caleb, so I was happy to tell him, showed him he wanted to see pictures. And of course, he told me he looked just like me, which isn't true, but it was okay. I took the compliment. For me, I was so nervous and I was so scared and I wanted to run away when it was time to go to the door. And I thought I was going to cry. I had my box of Kleenexes. I was, and it was absolute and total peace. We visited for over 2 hours. He didn't want me to leave. I didn't want to leave, but we were getting on a cruise ship, so we had to. but he writes to me often. He speaks Spanish, and I don't. I know to ask where the bathroom is and to order a margarita, but otherwise, I don't know any Spanish. So we kind of do the best we can. And sometimes I'm sure I say things that he doesn't understand, and he says things that I don't understand, and I just answer how I think he's asking. But he's very, very precious, and he has the most beautiful family. So for me, it was very healing.
I would echo that as well. Um, I attune it to the joy in knowing that my son gave life to other families and other people was a balance for my sorrow. And I had the vision of walking on a balance beam with an ocean of sadness on my left and an ocean of joy on the right. And I was in the middle, being balanced by both. So it gave me joy to know that he gave life to other people and families.
And for my part, writing the letters, I just know that all those people know who he was. And I included a picture of him in with each of my letters. The same picture that his florograph was made from, because he was never without a Red Sox hat. But yeah, even if I don't hear from anybody, I just know that the 12-year-old kid in Hawaii who had ACL surgery 8 years ago is, he's playing baseball or surfing or whatever he's doing, and he knows a little bit about the guy who helped him be able to do that again.
You ladies, want to invite any other questions that you all have for our panel? Feel free to raise your hand, unmute, or if you feel more comfortable, drop them in the chat. Give everyone a few moments. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm curious, have you faced any negativity, like negative feedback, for your decisions?
The decision to donate,
Mm-hmm.
have the loved ones donate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a little bit. My son experienced brain death, and there are people that thought that if I would have just, given him more of a chance, that he would have
Right.
somehow woken up from his brain death.
Right.
And I just compute those types of comments or questions to ignorance,
Yeah.
and not really knowing, not ignorance in a bad way to say that it's bad, but people just don't really know that they don't have an understanding, a lack of knowledge. They don't
Right.
have an understanding of what brain death means, that people don't wake up from brain death. But it was very few and far between and not directly to me. But there's always a few of those out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that has to be very tough on the donor family side, when you're coping with the immense grief as it is, to then have to battle that as well on your shoulders.
Right.
And how what you now have to talk about to donor families. What is the advice you guys would now give to donor families who are experiencing this?
I mean, it's just a very much an individual decision with your family, between
Mhm.
yourself and your loved one or your child. If you're looking at dealing with a minor child, then it's the parent's choice. And to not, put your blinders on and know that it's really nobody else's business, nobody else's concern. It's between you and your loved one and, the doctors, the hospital, God, whatever, it's just nobody else's business. It's a very personal decision.
Mhm.
That really brings us to our final question. Oh,
Hmm?
I'm sure if we have a question. I'll ask this one and see if we have any others pop up. But ladies, would there be anything that you wish that you had known in advance before meeting or connecting or writing to the recipient?
Well, I'll speak then. Trying to give Lisa or Jan maybe an opportunity. I would say what I wish I would have known in advance was that the recipients receiving my son's organs did not make them immortal. That I had this subconscious belief that them receiving the organs of a 21-year-old Army Ranger who's, about as healthy as a donor as you can get, that they wouldn't die themselves until his heart gave out. And that wasn't true. That wasn't true. So knowing that there's not a longevity guarantee that comes along with the donation would have been helpful. I don't know how I would have coped with it in knowing that up front, but being kind of blindsided by that years down the road was tough, was difficult to cope with, and caused some compounded grief for me. That there's no time guarantee that comes with donation. To focus on the gift. The gift itself is really the most important thing, not the amount of time that is attached to it.
Thank you, Joe. Any final thoughts or insights or comments from our panels or questions from others?
Well, I'll just quickly say, and Jen mentioned this about her letter writing, that she's going to continue, and I love that you're numbering them. I think that's fantastic. OPOs are amazing. Aftercare teams have united families, have connected families years and years and years after a transplant. So they do some remarkable things, and I would just say, like I keep telling myself, don't give up.
The year, the standard time frame. I think I'm going to respond to that because I think that's kind of a personal preference, maybe. And I think that's what has been encouraged or taught or ingrained. Um, so in addition to being a donor mom, I also worked for an OPO, and I encouraged my families to write when they were ready. If it was 2 days from now, that's great. I wrote pretty quickly after my son passed away, and then I decided to write again at Christmas time. So he passed in August, and then at Christmas time, I wanted to tell him something different. So I wrote again. So I think that's maybe what you hear on the transplant side. And Jen, maybe you can help me out with that more. Um, but I just say whenever your heart is ready.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm a big proponent of right when you're ready. I have heard a bunch of people saying a year, a year, a year, and I do think that's kind of the norm that people speak on. And I have found it does vary by protocols of transplant centers. They will say, oh no, you need to wait a year because, and they will say that's based on when the donor family is ready to receive it because they need the proper time to grieve over the loss of their loved ones. So that's where this whole wait a year comes from. But I would tend to agree with you. I think you write when you're ready. So I think this is something that the community needs to address, and kind of re refocus our tune on when we think it's time to write. Because it's really up to when everyone feels it's time. And it's up to the donor family when they want to receive the letter and respond back to the recipient, or when the donor family wants to try and write to the recipient, right? It goes both ways, in my opinion. So I don't think it's up to the transplant center to say, this is when you can write the letter. I mean, they really, the transplant center is the one that's performing the surgery. They're not really setting the rules as to the emotional connection, in my opinion, at least. Right. I don't know if anyone else in the group wants to jump in and share their opinion or their experience in terms of writing letters. You guys are all welcome to come off of mute and share their experience on writing letters or comment
Like
or anything with their centers.
Harold has his question up.
Harold, yeah,
I'm
go
gonna take
ahead.
my screen down as well so you guys can see each other.
Yep.
My transplant center told me a year. I wrote within 6 months after my transplant, and actually made a connection with the sister. And the sister told me that the parents did not want to talk, but I'm almost at the 10-year mark, and I'm going to try to reconnect again, just like Jen. Every so often, I try to follow up and see how they're doing. And I would love to be able to speak to the parents and just say thank you.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Jamie, I see
You
your
guys
hand.
for
Go ahead.
everything.
Sorry, I'm not walking. I'm not on camera. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's amazing. I hope others get to hear this. Definitely, just work with a lot of individuals that you, as the family members, are just sharing how you feel. It's phenomenal. So I want to thank you. Jen, I completely agree with you 100%. I don't understand why transplants haven't centers or even OPOs have any dictation on how people should grieve and when they grieve. I have two organs, so two different donors, and my the wife of my recipient, my liver, Randy, she wrote like immediately after transplant, and it was very delayed in getting to us, and then it was very delayed for us to meet on her OPO side. Not some things went really wrong, but what I'm saying is that was her way of grieving was to reach out immediately within 4 months, and we need to honor how people process things 100%, and not tell them at what times that they should be able to do things. Just very strong personal opinion I have. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Yep. Anyone else? Opinions, feedback, experiences? Would love to hear it.
I just wanted to ask, I believe it was Jill that was a recipient of transplanted skin. Was it skin or tissue?
Jan.
Oh,
Jan.
me.
Jan.
Yes.
Sorry, Jan.
No, that's okay.
How do you feel after having that done?
Oh my gosh. I had tendon transplants in both hands. I had thumb joint replacements, and I had bone tissue in a fusion surgery of this joint. My erosive osteoarthritis was so great, and I'm a professional calligrapher. So it made all the difference in the world. It allowed me to continue what I love doing. I hadn't found this job yet. And but it also, cut down on the number of glasses and mugs I was breaking because I just couldn't hold on to them and stuff. So yeah, it was really, the recoveries were very painful and very long, but I wouldn't change a thing.
I have to let you know. So I've been a donor of skin tissue to myself. I've had some very serious surgeries. I degloved an elbow in a rollover car accident, and they moved muscle tissue in the arm to fill the hole on the elbow. And they've grafted skin from other places to cover other holes I've made myself.
Wow. And how do you feel now?
I feel amazing, truly, and I'd be willing to give anything I could to anybody I that would want it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Mary
you.
has her hand up.
Oh, well, I just wanted to thank Taylor's Gift and, Jen for just, just bringing Taylor's Gift on and the connection all of you made. And it was just so heartfelt listening to all the stories. And for me, I'm a two-time kidney transplant recipient, and I had my first kidney transplant back in 1987.
Mm.
And I actually connected with my first organ donor in 2020. So it was a very long and kind of amazing journey and story how they found Brian's family. And I got a chance to speak with Mark. That's one of Brian's brothers. And actually, the sister had just died when they received my letter. So it was just very emotional. But the OPO, they were shocked that they found because that was how many years? Like that's a significant amount of years. And so that's why I'm just piggybacking off of what Jamie said and also what Jen said. I don't think there's any timeline or deadline, whether it be when people write a letter, receive a letter. I think everyone's journey and experience is so personalized and so different, and there's no right or wrong, and there's no rules and regulations because it's so personal. And then for my second organ donor, she was a 4-year-old girl when Amira fell on her. And her mom, it took her a while to accept receiving my correspondence, but she couldn't go beyond that. And she went back and forth. So it's challenging. It's life and death. It's very, very hard. And it's waves, it's ups and downs. Yeah. And that's grief. But thank you so much and that's the journey for everybody. So I just really want to thank you. I really appreciate just hearing all the stories and everything.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so important. I think to hear all this and everyone's insights, I think is really telling of why feedback matters and why we need to really, advocate sometimes on behalf of, you know, patients, donor families, and donors, right? Because each story is so individualized. And, we don't all fit into a mold. So the year doesn't work for everyone necessarily. Yeah. Yeah. So again, just appreciate you guys coming here and sharing the important work that Taylor's Gift is doing. It's absolutely vital for the patients, the families, and the donors, right? We all come together in this community.
Yeah.
So thank you guys, truly.
Jen, thank you. I mean, it was a really incredible experience for us, and I know I can speak for our entire team and those of our Taylor's Gift families that are on with us tonight to just see the diverse perspectives to create this knowing, this word that we like to use a lot, that there is kind of this hope that maybe if you're not able to connect in this first year, that as Mary said, it can be years and years later where this connection can happen. And even if connection doesn't happen, like connecting to others who are walking a similar experience or on the opposite perspective of the experience, really just it creates this community of care and love. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So Jen, thank you for facilitating this, inviting us, connecting with us. And we're just so, so grateful to you all and hope this is one of many opportunities where we spend time together.
Absolutely. Now that everyone's been a part of this, we can spread the good word of the work that, Taylor's Gift Foundation is doing to those that we interact with and let people know that there is support that you guys offer to others in this space also. So I think everyone here is going to be happy to let people know what you guys are doing because I know we all interact with other advocates out there in the space and say, hey, if anyone needs support out there, reach out to Taylor's Gift Foundation. So I don't think there's any hesitation with that. So thank you guys. And with that, if there are any other questions from anyone, we will wrap things up for the night. And any other additional questions that you may have, you guys feel free to reach out to me or Hannah or any of the other wonderful volunteers with Taylor's Gift Foundation. And with that, I will say thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you guys on another Thursday.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, guys. Take
Thank
good care and have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Stay positive, ladies.
Thank you. You too.
Bye,
Always.
everyone.
Take care.